Hello, hello friends. It is a wonderful Monday evening and we are going to paint some florals in a jar. Couple quick housekeeping things. First, I'm going to try to find me in our group. There we go. Sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't, and oftentimes it freezes. So I may not be able to see everything that you guys are seeing on the camera. So if something goes awry, shoot me a message because I can usually catch messages too. Who knows what's going on? We did all the things you're supposed to do. Okay, so today is the florals in a jar. And it's a really imaginative title for these flowers in a jar. So this is when I originally did it in my mixed media pad, and then I was just very curious of what it would look like with a more dramatic background. So this is done on the black. I'll show you both the black and on the lighter surface, but I thought I would go ahead and do a very similar background to what I did on the lighter surface, just so you can see it, and that way we can let it dry while we talk about some of the other things. So this is just streaked a couple colors. You could really pick any colors you wanted. I kind of wanted to, I guess I was thinking kind of more the spring, and I wasn't even sure what blue I used, so I came and sitting there playing going, was it this one, was it this one? And you know what, it doesn't really matter, it doesn't. I'm going to be doing the background for this first on an 11 by 14. This piece is incredibly adaptable to any size. Let's get you pointed down to the canvas. Let me scooch over a little bit. Let's see if I go out of here, if I can possibly find us. It would be great if I could see what was going on. I'm frozen. Frozen. Okay. All right, so like I said, it really doesn't matter the color you would use. I want a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, a little bit of a yellow, and a little bit of an ochre color. So knowing that I'm going to be putting my jar on a table from Flor, how good, at least I can see a comment. Yay, joy. I want there to be a little bit of a fading into a table color. That's all I'm going to say. But any color that you wanted to use, you certainly could put it in on your plate. I'm just going to squiggle some up there, and I'm going to squiggle some white a little bit underneath it. But you certainly could actually base coat this first. That's a little too almost Floridian, isn't it? So I'm going to mix it up, make it a little lighter. I'm going to go ahead and reach over my sides. Why not? I'm just going to pull it down. So you can see it is not a very technical background. It's just a matter of getting some swipes of color on. And I just like to have a little variation. So that's why I threw the white in here too. Now I'm going to want to bring a little bit of that other color up. Oops, let me pull a little bit of color on my sides here. I have my heater going tonight because it is chilly down here. I don't know why. Okay, so I've got that blue. If I go into a yellow, I'm going to have quite the greenish color. So let me just grab a little wipe and just wipe this off. And I'm going to pick up some brighter yellow, and I'll pick that up on my plate. This is just a golden straw, I believe. Oh my goodness. I had trouble with this my last class. One would have thought I would have fixed it, but I didn't. So, let me get some of that yellow on here. And let's get this going too. My goodness, everything's awry. Just a half sec. There we go. Okay, so I just got some yellow out of my plate, and I'm just going to pick some yellow up, and I'm going to think my table is going to be about here, okay? And I'm just going to pull some of this yellow up into here. It's a little too bright for me. Simply going to rinse my brush out. I'm going to go more with this golden. Sometimes you just don't know. It's always good to have a little white there in case I need to blend it. I clean this brush out because it was really getting green. Didn't like that. So I'll pick up a little white. And pick up this ochre color. I'm just going to streak it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be a solid color. Just wanted to have a little bit of this coming back, reflecting back up into my background. This can easily just be one color background. You don't have to do this at all. It was just what in my idea for my piece. Then I'm going to take the two colors here, the yellowish and the ochre, and I'm going to kind of base coat what I'm thinking of as mostly my table. I'll pull that color around in just a sec here. I'll make a stronger distinction for a line. Your background and your table really are not going to be that noticeable. It's all going to be about your flowers, but it's always good to have a little color all the way around your canvas. Now these flowers are super, super easy to do. Super, super easy and so versatile in what you can do with them. I have done them, obviously, as you saw in the jars, but I have done them in baskets. I'm going to show you a version of them we did last year. So I want you to see real quick. It's not even completely covered. It's okay that there's some splotches. I'm fine with that. I'm going to set this aside for just a sec, and I'm going to grab another piece. So this is an example of one we did last year, and it just has some different colors, and then we added the more berries, and yes, of course, those little dragonflies. The fun thing we kind of did with this was meant to be silly fun, is we pulled some of the colors as stems. So if this was a red flower, it had a red stem instead of just doing the green stems. So like I said, really versatile flowers to do a lot of things with. I'm going to let this set aside for a minute and see if we can manage it without blow drying it. If I set it in front of the heater, it might to dry quickly. Let's see if we can do that. Otherwise, we'll hit it with a blow dryer in a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to pull out my black sketchbook, and we're going to talk about how we would go about putting a pattern on for this lovely piece. I just went and got chalk, and I have no idea where I put it. Oh, story of my life. Let's see if we have a piece sitting here. We do. I actually usually sharpen my chalk, like with a pencil sharpener. This one is not. So, if we take and look at our one here, and this is a 10 by 20 canvas. So it's a little different perspectively, but still I get the same idea that I'm going to want this jar and I'm going to want some flowers in it. But it also needs to kind of sit on a table. So let's just kind of figure out about where our table is going to be. The nice thing about chalk is it erases really easily. And then we can actually draw on our jar. And we know our jar needs to sit on our table, not on top of our table. So let's start with just like a little bit of a, I'm going to call it like almost a semi-smile, okay? Not even a full smile. And as wide as you make it, it'll be as wide as your jar. So if you are thinking you'd like a wide mouth jar or vase, make it bigger. I think this perspective will be fine. And then I'm just going to sketch, and it's just a slight little sketch, up a bit. Now I want it above my table, of course, but that's probably enough. And you know what? I don't even have to do anything to the top. If it makes you feel more comfortable to put a line for the top of it, that's fine. I'm going to go back down to the bottom, and where I did that kind of a almost smile, I'm going to do an almost frown. I'm not touching it exactly, but I'm going to give it a little bit of space. And that will help me see that that is the back of my jar. Now, you make a mistake. Best thing about chalk is it's just going to erase off. I just thought that was a little too... And then if we need to, we might even make our jar a little flatter. Okay? So that is where I would begin for, oh shoot, I just knocked that wet paint down, my jar of flowers. And then if I needed to start a pattern for the flowers themselves, I would just think of a couple circles. So maybe I'm going to want one that's going to be hanging over my jar a little bit here. Maybe there's one that's up this way, and they don't have to be complete circles. Let's do one about here. Maybe one that goes a little more off. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could leave it at 5. I think I'm going to go one more. I think I'm going to go one more up here. And I still will draw mine down below, but that one will come after I've done a little bit to my table, okay? So there is just a real basic sketch. Now, we wouldn't have the table behind our jar. We would just get rid of that one. But we would want to have an idea of where the water is. So again, it's like almost a smile with a tighter little back line that helps cut off where the water would be, okay? So let me see how we are in our blue one. Still a little wet, that's okay. I want to take a minute, and before we start putting everything in, let's talk about these flowers. These flowers can be any color you want. And one of the really fun things is you don't even need to have values of your color. If you wanted purple flowers, for instance, you literally could start with a darker purple and then add white to make your medium value. And that is really all you would have to do. It can be true of even something like the yellow ones, where I did choose to go with a darker shade to begin with, this ochre color, and I did pick a little brighter yellow to help pop those, but you cannot go wrong. So I'm going to show you one just with some purple. I think that's an easy one to use. And I'm going to have to get another plate. I can't believe this. Okay. So here's my purple. I'm going to have a little bit of purple. And I'm going to have a little bit of purple that I'm going to put some white in. Are we okay screen-wise? I really wish I could see this. I really wish I could. But I can't. Even if I go out of the group, I don't think I can. All right, we're going to deal with it. All right, the brush you use is 100% up to you. It's just got to be something that you can be a little comfortable with being a little sloppy. Oh, this is just mixing up my paint. I just want you to see that I have a lighter value. It's the same color, it's just a lighter value. All right, so I'm going to take that lighter value, and my job was going to be to think about wherever my circle is, to just fill it in so it's got a fair amount of paint on it. It doesn't have to be smooth edges. In fact, I think they're better if they're not super smooth edges. And before it dries completely, acrylic paint dries relatively fast, as we well know. We want to put a little bit of contrast in there. Hi, Nancy. So I didn't clean my brush. I picked up that darker value, and I want you to see, I'm just laying it down. I am not painting it in. I am just being very kind of haphazardly, and I'm just going to make some marks, and it's okay if some of them go outside my circle. And the more I go around them, the more they're going to blend. So if I have a spot that I really don't like, I have this line that just doesn't look like it works at all, that's really not a problem. I can just go back in, and the more I play with it, the more it's going to blend. Now, I don't want to blend it into one color. So I want you to give it a couple little strokes, and I want you to stop. In fact, that was a little too blended in my opinion. There's no wrong, but just if you give yourself, here's my little purple, my purple smush. If you let yourself just have a few contrasting strokes in there, we're going to come back and add another color. So we don't need to do it all at one time. Because I want that to set up a touch, I can do the same idea with another color. So this time I'm going to use, this is deep burgundy. I think that's the color I used on some of these. And again, how I'm going to get my medium value is I'm simply going to add white to get my lighter shade of that color. So let's blob on. Oh, I'm not sure that's the color I used. That's okay. It's the color I'm using right now. Pick up some of that darker color and just stroke a little bit on there. Not too much, but just want to see some difference in those colors. And that's about as much time as I need to give my purple flowers when I can go back to some straight white and do that very same thing we did. Just light little strokes all the way around. Now, here's the deal. Your paint is still going to be pretty wet, so it is going to blend. That's part of the beauty of these smush flowers. It's going to blend, and then we get to come back and add more where we want it or need it as the paint dries and kind of becomes its own different colors. Now, I won't stop there. I will continue on working my flowers, and then I'll come back and pick up one of the contrasting flowers. So I know I'm going to have one of these flowers, so why not pick up a little bit of that color and add it to my flower. That way the colors will bounce off of each other. We'll certainly need to come back and re-establish some of those whites, and we'll probably need to come back and either use the darker color if it works and add a center, or we might need to actually go to a brown or a black. That really will depend on how dark your flower is to begin with and how much contrast we need. But that's a really simple part of the flowers. Oops. So, at least I can get rid of some of these paints. They're blocking my view. Okay, now let's see if this thing is dry. Just about. I think we're going to hit it with a blow dryer. Set this down. I'm going to hit this with a blow dryer real quick. Okay, so same deal. If you want, oh, and see, I did have that piece of chalk that was sharpened. You can use a pencil. You can use chalk. You can even just use a line with your liner brush. So I've already kind of established where my table is, but I still want my, let's grab that one. Hang on. I still want my vase sitting down, not on top of the table. So let's go about down here. And I said it's kind of like almost a smile, almost. And then we're going to come up on each side, just little sketchy lines. For as big as we want our jar. And I want my jar a little bigger than that, so that's going to go this way. Okay. If you feel like you need to add a top to it, fine. But more important is to come down here and to kind of give us an idea where the back of that vase is going to be. And then we can start placing our flowers. And we can also place where our water line is going to be. Again, that's a bit of almost a smile. And a pretty, almost flat on the back, but it's going to curve a little bit, a tiny bit of a frown. Okay? So lay in some areas where you want some flowers. Let's see, let's do this one's 1, 2. What does this one have? This one has 2 yellow, 2 ready pink ones, and a purple. So we'll try to emulate that one a little bit. And they don't have to all be the same size. There's 1. Here's 2, here's 3, and they will change a bit as we paint them, okay? Now, I showed you how we started to do the flowers, but what I really am going to do is we're going to come in and add a little bit of that greenery first. I always recommend you guys watch these first because, one, I never teach them the same way twice. I never paint anything the same way twice. And that way you have an opportunity to kind of see the whole thing come together before guessing what's next. Something I do want to do of both of these is I want to put down a little bit of my water in my jar. So whether your jar ends up being more, I'm thinking this one looks a little more clear, like a clear jar, or the one I initially did here has a little tiny bit of a blue tint to it. Either way, what we're going to do right now is the same thing. It's going to be adding a very little bit of white to start looking like water. I think it's easiest to do this with a flat brush, but again, there's no rule. There really isn't. I actually am going to pick up just the corner of my brush and just pity pat it here so I kind of have that floated color. And I'm going to go down or up my side of my vase. It doesn't matter. If going up is easier for you, do that. And I'm going all the way up to where the flowers are going to be. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Don't worry about your bottom yet. So I was froze for you too. I'm sorry, Nancy, because I on every video I'm frozen on my iPad. But I'm trying to watch up here too. I wonder what's going on. I wonder. Let's do this, ladies. I think maybe, and I'm connecting them on the bottom. Joy, have I been frozen for you? I know Joy was watching too. Okay, all right. All right, so I went from side up, and then I just kind of did that almost smile going with the color down. That is a really good point, that generally if there is something frozen on a video you're watching, your replay almost always is clean. It should not, we've checked our internet. We've cleared the, cache in my iPad, and I don't know why I don't see me at all. And it's happening on my page. It's happening in our groups. It even happened on when I was on Zoom the other day. So it's very weird. Okay, we're back to our base. Okay, you think it's Facebook? Okay, let's just blame Facebook, okay? I like that idea. All right, so all I did so far, and you can see it's fading in to my side, so I probably am either going to need stronger color, meaning the stronger white, or what I did end up doing was I ended up coming back with almost black. It's actually a dark gray line to help separate it, and that will be determined more by your background color and how the white is going to stand out next to it. Oh, Amanda's on these. I forgot about, I try not to do 7 o'clock classes, but I sometimes forget. All right. So like I said, this is probably going to need to get another coat. I can do that now. So just pulling it up. Okay. And we want to see where that water is. So still just using the corner of my brush. And I'm going to first go on that back line. And it doesn't even have to be floated color. It could just be a slash of white to help you see that there is some dimension to that vase. And the same thing up at the top. Bring a little color down. And I'm going to go on that line with the color, if you're floating down. Now, if you're not floating, don't worry about it. We're just going to pull from that line some white very sketchily down so it looks a bit like water, because that's where our flowers are going to go into the water, right? So I don't know if I did draw. Okay, so if you're working on a black surface, one thing I would do with my black surface that I haven't done on this one is I probably would just take a little bit of a different tone. It could be any color you want. I'm just going to pick up a little brown. And again, this is not This is not being very fancy at all. This is just laying down some color, but I do want to make sure that color goes through my vase too, because if you could see through that vase, you would see, oops, the table. Oh my goodness, I had my heater on and all of a sudden it's like it's 5,000 degrees. And being a woman of a certain age, 5,000 degrees is not always a good thing. So I'm just brushing on a little bit of this color, and if I needed to, I can come back and put my pattern on, but I think I can fake it. I think I can. Just a little bit of this table color. And I can add more. But exactly like we did on the other one. Set this down for a sec. I'm going to use the side of my brush, pick up a little bit of paint. I'm going to start that curve on the bottom, going up a side all the way to my flowers, go up the other side all the way to my flowers. I can lay in that back curve, and I can lay down where the water is going to start. We want them to be soft lines. Oops, I got funky. And then just pull some white down. We're not done with the vase, but that way we have a good start so we can actually pull some stems. There are a lot of lovely greens out there. I go to my Hauser green, light, medium, and dark most of the time for my flower paintings. And tonight is not going to be any exception. I like to have all of them on my plate. I might need another plate. Oh, gracious. A little yellow, or a little Hauser green light, and a Hauser green medium, and a Hauser green dark. Those are my greens. Just getting them on. Sorry, I'm holding this plate in front of you. When you're working on a black or a dark surface, your colors are going to be a little different than if you're doing it on something light. It's just how they're going to show up. Where we want to use lighter colors on something like this background so they're not in your face, because they're in the water. We want that water to be covering them, and we'll come back over with some more white too. But on the black, you may find that they sink into nothing. So just realize that if I pick one color and then go, you know what, that could be a little darker. That's part of the creative process. It just is. So I like to lay in a few of my stems. Now I'm going to have stems for leaves, stems for flowers. I will just pull my paint on each side of a flat brush. So I use that chisel, that skinny edge, and I'm just going to lay in some idea of where some stems might be. Now remember, I'm not going to see everything they're connected to, but I want to get a few stems in my water. Just skinny little lines. They don't actually have to go, they don't have to connect to anything particular. They really don't. But think that some of them would be at an angle, some of them would be a little more straight. They probably aren't all the same length. So you just want a few of those stems in your water. Now we got to let those dry enough so we're not just smearing the green. So just let that be for a minute. And I want you to think about your overall idea of your composition of your piece. We threw in some circles, but we probably are going to have some greenery that's going to stick out here and there. I like to put a little bit behind my flowers before I start with them. And they don't have to go in my circles, but they certainly can. Same, greens that we just used. Maybe I think I might want to have a stem of leaves coming up that way. Maybe there might be some falling down this way. Even if I don't put my leaves on them right now, if I get an idea of where I might like to see some leaves, and if I want some leaves, I can set my brush down and just flick it for an easy way to do a leaf. Let's grab this. So I've got these colors on my brush and I'm setting it down, and I'm pushing and I'm turning and I'm lifting to my chisel edge. So that's one way to do a leaf. Another way to do a leaf, let's say I've got this one, is to literally draw the shape of the leaf and just fill it in. Your leaves aren't your star either. If a flat brush doesn't work for you, you might just use a round brush to draw in your leaf. Or maybe you like to set down and pull up like almost like a little comma stroke, except for it's a little straighter. If you have little bits of leaves, maybe they're just little flicks, because you're going to want all sorts of leaf textures when you get going. And again, don't worry so much about filling all the leaves in, but get yourself a little bit of an idea of where you might want to see some come from. I mean, there's no right and there's no wrong, okay? But I want to have an idea of where some of those can be. I like to have my flowers on top of my leaves usually, but sometimes I'll snuggle in a couple to begin with. Let's just grab a couple just for fun. So maybe I'll take one here and I'll just set my brush down and I'll just wiggle it a little and I'll pull it to that point. So there's one leaf. He's already in there. Maybe we know we're going to have one coming out here. Maybe, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some leaves coming back down in. I'm not going to go too far into my water because we have to come back and go back over them. In fact, they should be dry now. So before we get too carried away with all our colors, let's pick up a little white, and you can even thin it a little bit with a little bit of water, and then tap that on your paper towel. And I want you to lightly, that's a little too dark, very lightly go over a little bit of your leaves. And it doesn't have to be solid. I just want to see a little bit so they start to look like they're in the water. So we have the water on top of the leaves. So we got a little dark, so let's just really add a little more water. That's it. So now they should look more like this part is your water, okay? Okay, we're gonna start with our flowers. And I wanna do flowers on both the dark and the light surface for you. My flowers were pretty much the same colors, they just look different because of the intensity of the dark background. If I look at my black ones, when we first put those first colors down, it's not nearly as, you will form the ones on top as we go. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So let's just think about getting these colors down. Like I said, these were 3 to 4 colors. You can have each of them be a different color. It's fine. I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple gold flowers. So, and again, if a flat brush is more comfortable for you, by all means. I kind of like using a round brush. I think I can just be I think I'm a little freer with a round brush than a flat brush. And again, you're going to see this really quickly here. So I've just loaded a lot of paint on that, but do you see how much is soaking into that black? And even the black paper is going to be much more so than black canvas. But note that when you are doing a dark surface, you will have a lot of color that kind of disappears right away. So I've just done the dark with this one. Now the one I showed you before, we did we did the medium value, then the darker value. This is my darker value, so I'm going to use my medium value to give it a little bit of a little something something. This is the yellow that doesn't want to come out. I might have to switch yellows. Okay, well, I think we got a glob out, so that should help. Okay, again, I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm not too worried about giving it too much time to rest either. I just am going to come through and just break up that base color with a couple little strokes of this other value. Let's do that on the lighter one. So didn't even bother cleaning my brush. Here's my more of my golden color. And I'm just smushing this in. I think smush is a good term for these flowers. And then I'll pick up my yellow, break it up a little bit. I can, before I go on to the next color, see what happens if I pick up some white. If it blends too much, I might have to come back. That's not too bad. Remember, these are lighter strokes. These are not, you're not killing it. You're kind of tickling it. Think about just kind of tickling it with your brush. Just go around and know that this is not the end all, okay? This is just step one of each of those flowers. And we will have opportunity to come back and enhance them again and again. So I did that right away. This one sat just a little bit longer, so this will be good for you to see too, that it just fills it in a little differently. And I'm not worried if I go over my flower. It's okay. Calling them smush flowers, but hopefully they are somewhat rose-like. All right, so that's my yellow. I'm just using our example. So if I look right next to these are these reddish ones, and even though this purple one and this purple one is next to it, they're less in the middle. So I think I'll do those next. It doesn't matter. Like I said, we'll determine which ones are on top after we kind of lay down our whole idea. So let's go for this one's going to be purple. Don't be afraid if you happen to pick up a little bit of that yellow that it's next to. It looks great when you do that. I picked up a little bit of my dark color. I'll go back to my light color, light purple. No, I think this time I'm going to do my other purple one right here. I'm going to split my, hey, we can be a little different, right? Need to make a little more of a light purple. I kind of ran out, and that's okay too. I brush mix that, and you can see that it's a little lighter, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because flowers don't go through a color checkpoint to make sure that they are exactly the right color purple. So we'll let those be for a second. I'll pick up these, and I'm going to go ahead and do my lighter shade purple here. And I'm being pretty sloppy, girls. And I'm going to do this one up here. And because those are touching, it just means that when I get to that point of needing to separate them, oops, see, that got a little lighter, I just will put some greenery between them. Okay, I'll take the darker purple and add a little purple. These are some of my very favorite flowers to teach in person, because you've got people who are just so tense, and you're just gonna go, just relax. Or I'll pick up their brush from and go, just la la la. And they'll go, oh, how did you do that? I'm going, you can do that. It's just, you're just being a little sloppy. And sometimes the more sloppy you are on something like this, I am wiping that purple off. So when I go into my straight white, I have a little cleaner white. And I'm just dancing these around. If you have an idea where you want your center, you can kind of start to leave that alone a little bit, but you don't have to know that yet either. Okay. Then, when I was playing around with the colors with these flowers, I used deep burgundy, but I don't think it's deep burgundy. I think it's actually alizarin crimson. So I think that would be a better choice, just because I think they got a little too brown. If I have an alizarin here, we're going to use it. If I don't, we won't. Oh, the cranberry wine. Don't think that's a good option. Hang on. Oh, this is Tuscan red. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think I want red. Let's go pinker. This color is called strawberry. So it's not going to look the same. But that's okay. That is okay. So I'm mixing some white to make a lighter value here. You absolutely could brush mix this. I think that'll be okay. It's a little softer color, but that's okay. So here's this one. And again, remember, on the black, it's going to really start to soak in. And if I was just using that color, I know I would have to come back and add another coat of it. But I'm coming in with that dark color, and it's going to mix with that light color. And sometimes your black actually acts as a bit of a shading tool for you too. If you want to remember, if there's one of your flowers that has fallen off the vase, out of the vase, you might want to remember to put it on the table. So I've got those going there. I will go back to my lighter value. And we've got one in the middle here. I'm guessing that's going to be tucked behind, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. And this one's going to come down here. Go in with my dark. Now, I purposely am doing the first step of these flowers before we finish the jar, so that way our flowers have a chance to settle in. Not necessarily dry completely, but settle in. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot. I want a flower down here. And I've got to come back with white on these pink ones. I haven't done the white yet. I like to wipe my brush off first when I go into the whites, just because that way I have a little bit cleaner white. Now, I love to paint flowers. I think everything's better with flowers. And we have begun, well, we should have begun white tulip season, but none of the stores have had white tulips. And trust me, I have a sweetheart of a husband. He must have tried 10 stores to find me white tulips for my birthday. We'll keep him. I'm very excited for real spring to hit our area, because we planted, when did they plant? 200 white tulips in my yard last fall. So I'm excited to see white tulips in my yard. I think all tulips are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I just have a huge passion for white tulips, white roses, white hydrangeas. Okay? So they've got a really good start. Now let's let those flowers hang out for a little bit. And let's look at our jar. Come back to our jar and see what needs to happen. Now I'm looking at this one, and it's kind of fading into nothingness. So option one would be just keep building up those whites. But I liked adding a little bit of that dark gray, almost as an outline. It kind of makes it a little whimsical, I think. So The ball on the jar is 100% optional. You don't have to write it. I loved when I taught, I think it's when I did Let Your Faith Be Bigger Than Your Fear. Somebody did their last name on the jar. I thought that was really cute. Now I want to see Joanne do that. That would be one long name on a, actually, I'm the only one who could probably pull off a short one. Oh, Jones is pretty close. A Muto, I guess I could do a Muto jar. That came out of her idea that her mother's maiden name was Kerr, and she was thinking about doing that, and she ended up just doing her last name, which was something, I don't even remember, but it was something rather short. Okay. I'm going to go with this one. I'll come back and show you in the black too. I'm going to make myself a gray. So black and white make gray. Or if you have a gray, grab a gray. And I'm just mixing that color up because I want it to be on the darker side, but I want it to be more gray than just black. Close. And I'm going to very sketchily, you see how that it's not perfect lines. They're very sketchy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that line that goes in front of my stems, and maybe a little bit on the back corners, but not all the way across. And I'm going to sketchily do the sides. Down my bottom, up my sides. And it's sketchy. It's meant to be sketchy. If you want to do a word on there, use your most creative handwriting. I am going to attach that back a little bit more, just a little bit, very light, very light. Okay. So I'm going to just I'm going with Mason, and I'm going to run out of room. That's perfectly fine. All right, what did I do on the black one? The black one, I definitely came back and was stronger with my white highlights. So I'm going to do that first. So I'll go back with my flat and pick up just a little bit on the corner, and I'll make this stronger up the side, and maybe even add a couple little slash marks in it. A couple little slash marks down. But then I also did pick up a little bit of that gray black color, probably closer to black on this, and just kind of emphasized where my water lines were. Maybe the bottom of that smile, and any place you kind of needed it. And again, if you wanted to write a name for your jar in here, you could. This side really needs some help. It looks better now. See, sometimes you have to go back and make boo-boo corrections. I think we'll leave that one today. We need to take a peek at our flowers and see if they're starting to get dry. But we're going to fill it in with some leaves first. And this is very, very organic. Joanne says her last name, Showaker, would go all the way around the jar. Make me smile, girl. Make me smile. Okay, so again, these leaves are organic. They're fun. They're fluffy. I think it's fun to change up your colors from light to medium to dark. Maybe add a squiggle. Maybe fill in your leaves first. This is where you get a lot of creative license. Don't forget, you can also flick some in between. If your flowers aren't done yet, you might want to wait for that until the end. But we can at least get some leaves that are on stems, maybe some that are falling down into our water or off a flower off to the side. Vary your colors and the size of your leaves, because some of the little filler leaves in our flower arrangements are much smaller. I'll do one up this way too. Just a couple little flicks. And maybe one more here. I do like to get some of these in before I finish my flowers, because that way, like right there, I get some green in my yellow. It'll be fine. Let's talk a little bit about the flower that's on the ground. Not on the ground, on the table. So it's going to need a stem, and it might, just might, be seen a little bit through your vase too, okay? And it might have a little leaf on it. We'll add a little shading under all of it when it's all set. I did that. Let's do some leaves on this guy. I'm going to set my brush down, and I'm just going to flick my brush, bring it to my point. I'm going to go back and forth into several different colors so my leaf color changes. Light and medium. I'm going to do a big leaf here. I have a leaf that comes off of this one. Sometimes making it up as I go. Let's add some here. My iPad has decided to die completely. That's really not fun. Get a leaf in here. And it's absolutely fine if you just want to draw on your leaves. I did not give these guys fancy anything. I just wanted there to be some greenery that came out of my flowers. I wanted to make sure that I had some different sizes. And if I wanted to add some squiggles, a liner brush, a small round, again, variety of colors. Relax, have a little fun with it. And I want to show you one more thing we're going to do before we're going to finish up those flowers. Our flowers don't have a lot left to do either. I don't want you to get scared. Now I've got a couple spots. I'm going to have to come back and add some leaves, but I want to finish those flowers first. I really liked, and it's you can see it on both of them actually. I came in and added some white, we're going to call it baby's breath, okay? And I like that it kind of pops in between my leaves and in between my flowers. And I think the real key with baby's breath is after you get it tapped on or pounced on, that we actually come back and attach some little lines, which are the stems of it. So that's it on that piece. And here it is on this piece. And even though it's dark, if you look really close, there are those little lines that connect it back. So how do you do that? My favorite way to do it is with what I call a well-loved brush. By that, it's a brush that's a little fluffy. It doesn't really have a great chisel. It's probably not been always cleaned properly. And you're going to want to go into some straight paint, but do not go straight to this, to that, to your painting. You've got to tap it off in your paper towel, kind of like offloading a little bit. And then it is a very, very soft touch. And you're just going to tap it on where you kind of think you might want to see a little bit of baby's breath popping through. It can be up higher. It can be down close to the piece. I kind of do mine in a little bit of a curve shape. Okay, so I got them on here. Then I'm going to come back with either a liner brush or a small round. Probably a liner, but I'm going to go ahead and use this for now. And any of your greens, and you just want to make it look like they kind of connected to just these, they're really little. They're skinny. So think about your little liner brush. Okay, so there they are with that one. We still have to finish our flowers there. Let's grab our, oops, it slid down. So back to my white, tapping some off. I want some down in here, maybe a little bit up here. And again, this is a soft tapping motion. This is not a pouncing. This is not a boom, boom, boom. This is just a little bit of these baby's breath popping through. And then we'll connect it with a little bit of greenery. Already got that guy. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Hang on. I didn't connect this one. This one needs a bit of a, I'll go ahead and give her a couple little leaves. All right. Okay, back to our flowers. So your flowers are probably mostly dry, and that's just fine, but you're going to want to use the same, we really just need to be thinking about using a little stronger white here and there, but you might want to pick up a little bit of the color from one of your other flowers. Let me get my brushes out of the water. So let's talk about the gold one for a second. Here we go. I'm going to go back into, I'm going to pick up a little bit of a little more lighter yellow, just a couple little strokes. And then I'll go into my white, my clean white. And wherever I want that just to be a little more strongly noted for the white. And here's what I'm going to do for my center. Just a couple more spots. I want it to be a little more white. The white we are not pounding in. We are just we're tickling. We're tickling. We're tickling our flowers with a little bit of highlight color. Then I'm going to use a brown. I happen to have light cinnamon here. It really wouldn't matter. And I'm just going to use the tip of that round brush. And I'm just going to tap these little tiny little dots inside my golden flower. Okay. I'm going to repeat that with my purples, where I might need to pick up a little stronger highlight for my purples, maybe a little couple here there. If I was missing, if it seemed like they were too light, I could always go back and add a couple little more darker colors too. These are going to just show up a lot more because they're going to be, we are blending them on dry instead of on wet. Whoops, that seemed to be a little bit. And it is perfectly okay to pick up a little bit of one of those other colors. So maybe I pick up a tiny bit of my pink too, and just here and there, I've got a little pink. Look at that. Not everywhere, just a little bit. And then my center, if it's dark enough, I can go in with that purple, little dots. If that doesn't show up for you, you go in with your black. And we're going to finish the pink ones up on this little page. And again, if you felt like you needed a little more of that medium color first to help you blend, you can. Otherwise, just that white and just a couple little spots to really accentuate their little petals. In the center, go with your dark color, or even go, maybe I'll pick up that. I'm going to borrow some of that deep burgundy I initially was using. Lucky for you, you get to see it one more time. Someone just got here. Oh, Alicia just got here. Okay, but hey, but that's what replays are great for. So, while very similar, certainly not the same as this one, but close. We do have one more thing to do underneath the vase, but I'm going to finish this one up first. And it's the same thing. It's, you know, deciding which flower might need a little extra white, and there's no right way you need to do it. You want these to be little flicks, not so much that you're going to see the canvas breaking through them. And if you do see that, just add a little of your base color, and that will give you a little more to blend with. Yeah, and these are tickle. They're smoosh and tickle. I'm going to go into my purples. I'm going to go there. I think I need a little more dark in this one. And just because I'm adding dark doesn't mean you have to. You might be perfectly fine with the deep color of yours. Here's the deal too. Let's say you have a flower you just don't like. You just don't like it. Start over. Really. Honestly, you can just pick your medium color again and just start over. Nobody's going to know but you. I have been known to do these flowers and the next morning or the next day go, that one really should be on top. I'm going to move that one so that one looks like it's on top. That's the other thing we're doing now, is if there's a particular flower you want to show up on top, this is a good time to think about that. So maybe I really want this yellow flower to be on top of this purple one. So I'm just going to make sure when I go around, it goes a little bit over that purple flower. And down here I can decide, do I want him underneath? Well, maybe he's fine underneath there, but maybe I want to make sure he's really showing up alongside the other side. So we'll make him a little sassy on that side. I'm going to pick up that brown. I'm going to make some little dots in my center. And I'm going to finish off with my pinks. And do we need a little darker one in here? This guy could be a little darker. I just want this whole flower to be a little darker. I'm going to go back with my whites. I don't know what I picked up there. It was not white. I think we'll give it another puddle of white. And this one we're just going to lighten a little bit. Oops. I might pick up a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of purple in this one. It's got purple on both sides of it, so maybe that purple is kind of shadowing down. just a little bit. Remember, if it gets to be too much, you can always go back and take it off. You can always start from beginning and smush a new flower into existence. Tickle it with the white. Then find a contrasting color, a darker color, to tap some little center seeds. Okay, one last thing. I want you to look at your composition of your flowers and think about, pick a direction of light coming down. So let's say I had light coming this way. I'd want a little bit of shadow underneath my vase and my flower that's on the ground. So I'm just picking up that scruffy brush, so you know it's not going to be a really great bit of color. So just a little color in here, and I'm just going to lightly, I don't even have to wipe that off on a paper towel, just lightly underneath my vase, lightly underneath. It's sketchy, but it just gives you a little idea that there's a little bit of shadow happening. And the same thing on my little black one. And on this one, it's going to be really hard to see something darker, so I'm probably going to need to lighten my brown up a little bit, just so I have just a little bit of a contrasting color happening. Oh, my puppies are getting in trouble. Big time. Just so you have a little bit of variation. All right. There we have it, done with our background with some yellows and some blues. Done again on a black background. This would be gorgeous on a dark blue background, or a dark blue metallic background would be pretty too. Whew. What'd you think? I hope you liked it. I hope you had fun with this. Remember, the replay is available for 30 days. And then we will see what happens after that. But just have some fun with these smoosh flowers in a jar. And I'd love to see what you do. And this is really great too. So I'm looking at it now in the camera, and I see that that purple one, to me, has too much white right around the center. So that's a really good tip for you guys too, is play with these tonight, and or whenever you're going to paint them, and then set them aside or walk away. Go get a drink of water, glass of wine, and then look at it again, because sometimes you just see things differently. And another is, I always suggest before you're done that you look at it here. This is great. This is wonderful to check it out. But set it across the room, because that's where you're going to see your painting. You're not going to see it in your lap. Very few people have their art stationed on their lap. So that's a really good idea to, you know, just see it at where it's going to be hung. I mean, I just did a piece for our great room that hangs in our fireplace, and I had to do it 3 times, because when I thought it looked good, and then I got upstairs and put it in the, as high up in our fireplace, it just kind of looked blah. It was like, it just didn't show up. You know, and then I redid it and I overdid it. And so, you know, there's just, here, I sort of kind of fixed it. So you see things at a different thing. You're really into black decors lately. I mean, I love the way the colors pop on a black, dark background. I think they're beautiful. I also think it's very pretty when you can streak a dark color on a background that you kind of expect to be light, but all of a sudden there's just that contrast. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here. I am going to call it a night. I'm having difficulties with dragonflies of all things. These turned out perfect. I know that's weird, but the next sheet didn't turn out at all. And so now we're playing with what works and what doesn't to find out what shows up, so we can see if we can turn those into some transfers. So that would be really awesome, but we've got to make it work first. So, hey, thank you so much. I will see you very soon. Till I do, please be kind, please be safe, and cheers. Bye-bye.